Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. I'm going to keep this as a relatively short clip, and in addition to that I'm going to keep it. This is Dendrobium lindleyi, or aggregatum as some people still like to call it, which I can understand. It's been called that for a hell of a long time. Possibly shouldn't have ever been, but discovered by a Mr. Lindley, so Dendrobium lindleyi makes far more sense, doesn't it? But with the naming of orchids, sense seems to go out of the window sometimes. Why I'm filming this is so that we can do the colour change, as well as just having a quick chat about the so-called guidance care that you get and why your logic should tell you otherwise. So first of all, I'll keep this clip because then we can do a complete comparison with the colour change. Yeah, so we've got blooms opening on 2 spikes at the moment. We've got another spike here that's a bit behind, another one here that's well behind, another one here that's quite a way behind, another one not quite so far behind. So there's plenty more to come, but these two are the first to open their blooms. So what we're looking for is the colour, basically. Let me see if I can focus on one. Hopefully that's in. I can't see, the screen's too bright at the moment. Right, so that's the idea. And then, given where it is now, I'll put it back there in 2 or 3 weeks' time and we'll have another look at, and at that time we'll probably have some brand new open blooms and some that are almost starting to go over on the same plant, so we should be able to do that comparison. Right, I've just had a good look at this plant. We will now have another look on camera. What we're looking for is new growths. And there are none. So if you followed the guidance in some of the books, you'd have stopped watering this in November, beginning of December, and you wouldn't start watering again until the new growths are formed. It's the middle of May. Just be real. I mean, the trouble is with lindleyi is the pseudo bulbs are naturally shriveled looking at the best of times. So to try and judge whether they're actually really shriveling or just doing their natural thing is quite difficult to judge. But even the shriveled look, you know, it's still got substance. You're still looking at some width to the pseudo bulbs, and obviously no signs of shriveling on the leaves. Nice and plump and firm. That's what you're looking for. And always a deep green on these. So there will be some new growth soon, I hope. Would be good. But yeah, it's one of those that it's a winter rester, yes. It does need the bright light to induce the spikes. Yes, it's got all that going for it. But the spikes start growing, you sort of, during, well, about the beginning of April, yeah? And that's when I start looking at, you know, this plant's got some reserves in it. Some of those will have been a bit depleted during the winter to maintain the leaves, but given our, you know, short days and everything, not too much. But then, you know, I give it it doesn't get any feed in the winter. Yes, I stick to that. It just gets water. It doesn't get watered heavily and it doesn't get watered often at all, so, but it does get a bit. And then as soon as I see those spikes pushing on, I start watering a bit more frequently, and then once the spikes start to elongate, I start introducing a light feed every now and again so that the spikes don't drain what's left in the plant, which is already a bit drained from its winter rest, if you see what I mean. And then hopefully that produces good sized spikes with good numbers of blooms. And this plant is now getting fed and watered with everything else, despite the fact the new growth hadn't started yet. But when they do start, they'll be starting from a fully resourced plant that's got all the resources it can hold. So when the new growth start, hopefully they'll push on fast and hard and get a good size. I don't think I've ever managed to get more than one spike out of a cane. I think they just have one. So far anyway. You know, as I said, relatively this is still quite a young plant. I mean, the first year I had it, there was no way I expected it to bloom, and it did. So it's doing okay. Anyway, Dendrobium lindleyi, colour changer, winter rester, and now that it's got its spikes, this plant doesn't need high light. So this can sacrifice its highlight place on the rack, and something that does better in bright light, like a cattleya, can take its place, because it's done its winter thing, it's produced its blooms. Now it's going to grow, and that doesn't need the bright light. It needs the long days, better temperatures, and some good feeding and watering once those growths start. And then it will push on nicely, and then we just repeat the process. You know, it's as I said, it's one of these that the cool down in the winter doesn't seem to be as important as it is for some other Dendrobium types. And although it's a rarity, it does happen. I've got a cane with 2 leaves on, just the one. They are traditionally a single-leafed cane, but it can obviously produce 2 sometimes. Oh. It was an extra large cane, that one. Yeah, it was actually extra large cane. It managed 2 leaves. But anyway, that's it. And the idea is I'll keep this clip now so that I can edit part of it onto the front of the next video, which I'll do in about 3 weeks' time, so we can see the progress of the spikes. And in addition to that, we can have a look and see if any growths have started yet, because we'll be out the end of May into June then, you know. Well into the growing season, well, nearly halfway through. So there we go, Dendrobium lindleyi.